Are you a born go-getter, or can it be developed?
Yeah.
In my opinion, it can be developed.
Nice.
It helps if you had a good psychological foundation. It helps if you were around people who pushed you to apply yourself and work, and if you picked up the habits of being focused and in a routine earlier on, and if you were exposed to empowering mindsets that tell you if you work hard and apply yourself, there's no reason why you can't succeed and be something. If you're told the right sort of things, then you can go out and be successful. But if you're the polar opposite of that, if you've been around lack, poverty, guess what? That happens to be fine too. Because there's people who came to the West with the shirts on their back, fucking nothing, and became billionaires. Because it's here. The most powerful weapon in the world, the great equalizer, is the human mind.
Nice.
Your consciousness. Okay? There's people who awoken to their potential later in life. There's guys who are in jail who developed incredible talents for the arts, for poetry. There's guys who went through midlife crises and drug addictions who became incredibly wealthy, successful people. If you sit 100 millionaires in a room and listen to their story, you'll hear 100 different tales of how they found their wealth. But what will unite them all is they stopped getting in their own way, and they saw that they actually backed themselves enough to believe, maybe I can go do this shit too. And why I can say this with absolute conviction, there was a point in my life where I was actually with a lot of self-doubt, and I believed it was impossible for me to find someone to date. So until the age of 29, I never went on a date, because I believed truly deeply in my core that there was no point, because there's not going to be a girl out there who's going to want to be with me.
Wow.
All it took was the right mentor, my coach Andy, who stopped for a moment and just got me to consider, Ravi, how can that be the case? What do you think is so wrong with you? You've accomplished things in your life, everyone else here in this men's group likes you. You have no business doubting yourself like this, and what we're going to hold you accountable for is, we demand you go speak to X number of girls, and we're just not going to take no for an answer. Lo and behold, it wasn't even many I had to speak to. Within the first 10 girls I went out and spoke to, one of them got me my first date.
Wow.
At that point, from there on, I learned that our beliefs are really fucking powerful, man. And when you start to actually see how you may have been wrong about limiting beliefs in the past, at that point, you can start to see things a little bit differently and start to move towards goals. This is the great equalizer. Like Ralph was just talking about determination and persistence. Those things can carry you to amazing places in this world. Many great examples of that. One that I really like is David Goggins. If you listen to David Goggins, he'll tell you about how, and look, that dude is very successful in life, okay? Everything he set out to achieve, okay, he's got to elite in. Absolute elite, top 1% performer. He wanted to perform in the military. He became top 1%, one of the most decorated individuals. Following that, he embarks on inspiring people. His book is a multiple time bestseller. He's made God knows how much money from it, but it's many, many millions, from selling his book.
Oh yeah.
And he's an inspiration to many people. This guy couldn't read and write until he was like in his teens. Yeah, he couldn't read and write. Yeah, he failed virtually everything in school. He failed out of the military 3 times before he finally got in. In everything he ever did, there was a lot of trial and error, because he didn't really have the cognitive ability. You could say he's thoroughly below average in talent and ability. This guy was very sickly. He grew up with all these illnesses and things, and asthma and breathing difficulties and all this shit. And yet this guy held the world pull-up record. And yet this guy's around how many 100-mile races?
Crazy.
He's below average in everything. He's got a hole in his heart. So at any point, his body is so deficient that it can't actually fully oxygenate. He's at an unbelievable disadvantage in everything he does. He had a childhood trauma, all these things. But because all of those things, he's below average in, but what he's elite in is persistence. Being elite in persistence, right? That was enough for him to completely, as you say, outwork God's plan for him.
Very nice.
These things are the great equalizers. I'm going to end this answer with a clip that I once saw when David Goggins was interviewed by somebody. Because I'm a performance freak, I'm always studying these people, I'm listening to everything that is out there, I'm absorbing it all, and I'm finding these outliers to decode them and deconstruct them. David Goggins was asked questions about his various abilities and what he rates himself in those. In like physical fitness, he gave himself, I'm about an 8. In like ability to be disciplined and focused, he said, I think I'm about an 8 in that. His ability to gut up and just get something done, he says, I'm a 10. His ability to rest and recuperate and relax, he says, I'm not very strong in that. I'd say about a 4. And he gives a few others, and he's actually quite modest. And then the interviewer asks him a question. He says, your belief in God, and he says 100. 100 out of 10.
Wow.
He says, everything else can be taken away from me tomorrow. I have an outlier level of faith and belief that I'm not here for no reason. And that's why I'm successful. That shows you that guy is one of the greatest performers of all time. And he did it with his mind, in belief, in just belief. Below average in everything. Greatest outcomes of all time using this. That's how you level the playing field, man.
That is a cracking answer and a cracking story, and you've summed that up absolutely perfectly. I didn't think you were going to bring in the God argument, but there is some sort of energy. I was on the treadmill today, and what pushed me through the final 5 minutes on the treadmill was a very strange phrase that popped into my head from a movie I saw many years ago called The Count of Monte Cristo. And he wrote and he inscribed into the stone, God will give me justice. And for some strange reason, while I was running on this treadmill, it was about 5 minutes to go, I was dead. I'd done a 30-minute weight training workout. I'd done 15-20 minutes on the treadmill on incline for 5 minutes. I was dying. And in my mind, I was just saying to myself, God will give me justice. God will give me justice. I don't know why that popped into my head. It was just something that came into my head to give me that extra added power and push to say to myself, this isn't just me. There is something out there which is giving me the extra push, an energy source of some sort, because it isn't just you. There are powers that be, but those powers that be give you some extra strength. But hey, ultimately where that comes from, you're cultivating that from your own mind. So I think on that note, we can wrap up this. You answered my question pretty perfectly, really. And to me, what I've taken from that is that go-getters are made, not born. You could be born a complete, at a massive disadvantage and nurture yourself into a go-getter. As opposed to you could be born a go-getter and you could be instilled subconsciously by your father, your family, or your parenting, and then you could get to 16, 17, 18. And I've seen a lot of this. And they completely lose it. They take a bunch of drugs, they do the late nights, they end up with a girl who softens them, and they stay with that girl for 5 years, and she dumps them because he's lost his masculinity. And now the guy's 26, 27 years old, 28, 10 years later, wishing that he could switch back to being a go-getter, having thrown his life away for 10 years. And that's just not what we want to see.
God wants there to be redemption in the world, and that's why we can recreate ourselves whenever we're ready, whenever we're called to in this life. Whenever it's the right time, we can reinvent ourselves. There's always the opportunity for rebirth. That's why we do what we do.
Damn right, bro.
Hell yeah. More performance talk coming to you soon. Tune in tomorrow.